No, I appreciate the opportunity. It was pretty nerve-wracking, but at the same time, I just feel like there are so many like fucking people out there that want to know what's going on, and they want the actual um boots on the ground story. And I'm here today to give that, but I'm not here to kind of floof it up. Ukraine was a reality for me, that of which to this day still feels like a dream coming back here to America. Um, every day I wake up, I still can't believe that I all that happened, and it just happened to begin this year in my life, and I'm only 22. So it is something of which that I think a lot of people should know, and they should know the true reality of it. It just has to be. People, you look in the news. It was funny. I had taken a trip to the behavioral health hospital when I got back. I was having some real tough times, and the war in Ukraine came on the news, but all they showed was like this random shitty blown out building from a bomb and a couple firemen that were digging through debris, and that was it. I mean, yeah, that's bad, but at the same time, it's like that's not giving the whole story of what's going on. So when I hear about journalists like you that actually are getting the stories, getting the actual um, out of the norm interviews and stuff, I was like, I got to reach out to this guy. And so I had a couple of my buddies on Instagram let me get a hold of you, and they reached out to you when you texted. I was like, dude, now I'm not so sure. I was like, I'm nervous, but I'm glad to
Don't
do
be.
this.
No, mate, look, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And yeah, you reaching out was epic. Like on that media front, we've all see what the media put out, and I know the American media tends to be a bit more extreme, I guess, than the Australian media, as far as you've got Fox and CNN on absolute like polar opposites, and we don't
Right.
have that to the same degree, I guess, here. But what do you think that is happening that they are not showing?
I would say that they're not showing. I'd say that the American media has really um, blown Ukraine's capabilities out of proportion. I'm not saying that they can't do well. I fought with some of the best people in the world, of which who couldn't even speak a lick of English to me, and yet their actions spoke volumes. But at the same time, I went through losses and defeats and horrendous days and moments of which I didn't think I'd make it back to my home, of which I'm here in at this moment. And I think the American media really tries to um, steer away from that. They want to keep people on the loop with Ukraine. They want to make Ukraine look very, I call it family friendly. I think they want to keep it very um, like even keeled and stuff on the news, so then people aren't freaking out. And then when you get people like me coming back stateside and sitting down with people, they're like, I never knew that. They're like, holy shit, I never saw that in the news. And I'm like, well, no fucking surprise. There's so much stuff that is not being reported because at the same time there's too much on there, too much available to report on. But all of it is stuff that which doesn't fit the narrative for the American media. And I think the narrative for the American media is we want everyone to think Ukraine's doing fine. We don't want people to see people's homes destroyed. We don't want people to see, you know, little girls losing their arms, little boys that were blown up by artillery shells. We don't want to see, grandmother's corpse hanging from a tree because she was blown out of her apartment by a Russian jet bomb. The shit of which no one wants to hear about. It was funny when I got back here, my dad looked me in the eyes and he said, I don't want you to talk about the war because no one wants to hear about it. I was like, well, lovely, right? Thanks for that. And it's funny, it's always funny. People are like, I support Ukraine so much and this and that. And I see so many Ukrainian flags hanging out from people's doors, but none of those people I bet truly know what's actually going on. And I bet you they probably changed their mind about what is going on if they found out the true story.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples of, things you've seen that go against, I guess, that media narrative?
So we could start off with, I'd say there was when I was taken off the front lines, and was going to Bakhmut. So I actually got back here to America on a free plane ticket, thanks to an ABC journalist who took me off the front lines. I gave her I gave her like a small snippet of my story, and she was touched enough to where she said, I'll take you home. But she was with a humanitarian group and she wanted to go to Bakhmut with them and report there. Well, when we went to Bakhmut, we showed up at this makeshift hospital where they were yanking Ukrainian soldiers off the front right outside Bakhmut. I think it was not Pisky. No, it was Pisky. Yeah, Pisky. And at this makeshift hospital, we had other reporters there too from America. And it's funny, as soon as the ambulances started rolling up, they were like filming the like the medical specialists, the doctors, and all that. I kept saying they're watching that, but as soon as there was a BMP that rolled up, and inside that BMP, dude, like blood honestly had just spilled out the back of it because there were so many wounded that they had just tossed in the back of it from the front. And as soon as they were bringing out these guys, and these guys were really fucked up. Guy's twin was just hanging there by sinews. Fucking one guy's fucking might as well just put a fucking bullet in his head because his face was just so goddamn mangled. And as soon as they're bringing these wounded by, they turn to cameras. They don't put it on that. They turn to cameras. And there's another kid, I think he was only like 21. He was like an independent journalist or whatever. You know, I ran into a lot of this. I always thought it's kind of funny. You know, I did interview for a few people when I first got to Kyiv in late February, and they're like, "I'm an independent journalist. Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Oh man, it's gonna be funny where I see where the hell this snippet ends up." So yeah, there's this independent. It was funny. The end of this kid, 21-year-old kid, he was from California. He looked like a guy. He looked like a stereotypical surfer and everything. The beard. He was the only one that actually kept his camera on those guys, and that kind of made me think about it a couple times. I'm like, and then when I finally got to come back to America to see what they're actually pouring and stuff, they didn't show anything really. Not nothing that would make me support Ukraine, to be honest, if I didn't go and fight. So, but it was because I saw the stuff that I did in the beginning of February and then late March that made me go. And so it was stuff like that. As I said, that's what spurs action, is reality. Reality spurs action, not fantasy. And I think a lot of America is trying to keep a fantasy picture of what the war is like. So
Yeah, you said before that, you know, you see these Ukrainian flags hanging and, you know, stuff like that. But if people knew the reality, they wouldn't support it. What element do you think would turn them off supporting?
I just think just what war brings out in people. I think what it brought out in me, what it brought out in others. You know, because I went there and I feel like I did good things, but at the same time, I know that there are a couple instances where I could have done better, or not so much in my actions, but as well as my behavior. So I would say, yeah, just reality, because a lot of people in my country don't like to address reality.